I think I speak for our entire village when I say we are absolutely delighted to have you here today.
I'm so happy to be here. As many of you know, my mother is a Bellport resident, and this town has meant so much to her, and I've always loved visiting here, and I feel very warmly welcomed. I ran into a lot of people at the farm today, and have other friends in the audience, childhood friend Caroline, she's somewhere here, back there. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for doing this, Siobhan.
My pleasure. I loved your book, absolutely loved your book, and I think anybody who is married, has been in a relationship can relate to your story. I mean, it's a simple story, it's a common enough story. I mean, man has some kind of midlife crisis, ditches his wonderful wife and family without explanation. Wife is blindsided and tries to figure out who she was married to. A stranger to you overnight. And while we are all strangers to one another on some level, you managed to find the common humanity, strike a universal chord by writing to the pain and the shame and the humiliation that you experienced. And that takes immense courage, because these are the emotions that we humans spend most of our waking hours trying to bury and hide. So why don't you begin by telling us how you found the courage to go right to the heart of that?
So it was a couple of things that happened that led me to writing about it. One, I can't really explain. It started a week after my husband left. I remember where I was standing in my house. He called me and he said that he thought we should tell people that our separation was amicable. He expected that I would agree to that. He would think I would agree to that. It's a less embarrassing story to go out into the world with. It is hard to tell people that your husband left you. But when he said it, I knew in every fiber of my being that I could not lie about this, that I would not survive it, I would not get to the other side of it if I told a false narrative. And I think I was conscious in some level that it would serve him and not me. But really what was there was something like deep in my core that I was going to be truthful. And that carried through. I would run into people who would come back to the island and they would say, "How are you?" And I would just start weeping and saying, "My husband left me and I don't know why, and I'm in absolute agony." And that just continued, this wanting to be truthful about it. And when I started writing it, it was because I wrote it just for myself, because I wanted to write the truth of what happened. There are a lot of narratives floating around, as there are in divorce, and I just wanted to say, this is exactly what happened to me. And that when I did that, that reawakened the writer in me in some way. But the other part of it was something that was a conscious decision. In my family, we have, and my mother is okay with me talking about this and writing about it, we have a generational legacy of infidelity. My grandmother was with an unfaithful partner for a long time, so was my mother, and they were taught me by example that you don't talk about it, that you are graceful, you clean up the mess, you protect the man. And I thought I had married someone where I would not repeat that legacy, that would stop with me. But I had done it in a more spectacular fashion. So I really thought about, how do I stop this for my children? And what I arrived at is the only way you can stop it is to talk about it and to be really open and honest about it.
So even though it was in your DNA, essentially, you managed to break the mold. And when you think about your grandmother, who was a grand practitioner of this art of cover-up, when it came to men's bad behavior, I mean, is she rolling over in her grave, or is she cheering you on for the poetic justice of it all?
I like to think the latter. I think about that a lot. She was very present for me in the days and weeks after my husband left. I would wake up and I felt like she had been with me, that she had been talking with me. And I hadn't thought about her a lot over the years since she died. She died when I was 9. But I really felt her presence. And my mother and I both believe she died with a broken heart. And I think that she would not want that for me. She would want a different life for me. And she would want me to claim my voice, my story in a different way. So I feel energetically that she's really behind me during this whole thing and the whole journey with the book, as is my mother.
So I found your book to be such a breath of fresh air. We are surrounded by so much vulgarity in our daily lives. And you lay out a path of kindness and equanimity. I mean, I'm sure there was a great temptation to demonize your husband. You don't. And is that the writing process, a lot of therapy, or are you just nicer than the rest of us?
Well, I think for me, the dominant emotion was never anger, strangely. It was actually just great sadness and pain and distress. But in the writing of it, I was very conscious of it because I had read other divorce memoirs, some of which are very good, but others really lost me in, they felt like really they were building a case against their ex with one more story, one more piece of evidence. And I felt that they became an unreliable narrator in that. I was also very conscious of a very unfair stereotype of divorced women, which is that we're very angry, we're very pissed off to have been left, we're too upset. So I was very conscious of trying to separate myself from that so that people would absorb the story, want to keep turning pages, but absorb the themes that I was trying to get across, but almost without realizing it. And I found that with my ex, that I just kept having to take things away. And it was hard for me to do that because they were true and they felt important to the story. But I found as I took things away, there was more of an equilibrium and it felt more fair. And I also was very conscious of my children reading this book, whether now or when they're 40 or 60. And I wanted them to be able to read it and have a greater understanding of their father and not feeling like it was just a takedown piece.
And it was a great love story. I mean, you wrote, much of the book is a love story, much of the book is a fairy tale love story, if you will. Yet as I was reading it, there were definitely seeds of who your ex-husband was and clues as to, his childhood of precarious finances. I mean, isn't there a blueprint, a sort of setup for resentment of the rich in there? I mean, at one point, just kind of waiting to emerge, festering in there, you say that he was a child who lived with a pervasive fear of financial ruin, as if his nose was pressed up against the window of those born with easy wealth. I mean, can you talk about that a bit?
Sure. First on the love story, it was very important to me to write that because I think in these kind of awful endings, you lose all of that, and I still believe in that. I really believe in our love story. I really believe that we were very happy for a long period of time. And when I look back, and I know that readers are looking back too to see where those red flags are, I think it's reassuring to people to find red flags. You can point to it and say, oh, he was a rebellious youth. My husband wasn't. I feel a little bit safer. I think my story is a scary story because it feels totally impossible and also possible that someone could wake up and feel totally differently. But so when I look back, I don't see the red flags leading up to leaving in the way he did, but I do see the financial red flags going back to a time before we were married. And I did not see those for a long time. I do see them now. I think that he came from financial trauma with his family losing their money, but growing up in absolute proximity to wealth. I think he was attracted to it and then also resented it. And I think if you take that thread all the way through, it becomes predictable that he would have been highly self-protective financially. And that what happened to me in my divorce could have been predicted.
And was it the pandemic is written about in a subtle way in the background, and do you think we were all sort of facing our mortality? Was that what pushed him over the edge?
I think of the pandemic as both as an intensifier and an accelerant. I can't quite say that it wouldn't have happened if we weren't in COVID lockdown. I think it may have led to like some of those things to snap. And as in his telling, the affair started as, before lockdown, but as we were kind of leading up to it. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if COVID created that sense of mortality, or getting close to 60 created that sense of mortality. It could be both. I'm really not sure.
Another moment in the book that I was totally outraged by was during the midst of this heartbreak, you went to a female gynecologist who said I sort of picture you with your feet in the stirrups, and she's saying...
I was, in fact. I
don't know if I just picked that out of your book, but basically saying that women who work are more interesting to men, implying that that's why he left you. What does one say to that? I hope you sent her a copy of the book.
I have not. I haven't sent her a copy of the book or the classmate in college who told me that I couldn't write. I sort of hope that they land on it and wonder, was that me? I did give a copy to my new gynecologist, and I said, just so this is not you. But yes, I think that's another one of those easy answers that make people feel a little more safe in this. Like, okay, if I'm a working person, this isn't going to happen to me. But of course it happens to both people who are working and who are not working. And I think some people have read my book as a criticism of having stayed home with kids, and I don't see it that way at all. I'm very happy that I stayed home with kids. I would do the same thing again. I always had meaningful work, but I think my story was different than that. It was really about everything pulled in the direction of his career and his interests, and he got out of doing kid things, and everything we did was about his success at work and like making it to that final finish line of making partner. And I think when things get so out of whack like that, it can lead to problems, and you can lose a sense of your own passions and talents and ambitions. And I think that's a little bit of what happened for me.
Right. And I know you probably didn't intend this, but the book in some ways reads as an indictment of that whole finance bro, cutthroat, amass money at all costs, never need to be home.
I may have intended that.
Oh,
I do think there is a culture there, and I do think it can infect men a bit of sort of money at all costs, and also I never wanted my ex to be cast out or fired or any of those things. That would not be good for my kids. That would not be good for any of us. But I was shocked by the acceptance of his behavior, almost the admiration for it, admiration for being cutthroat in a divorce, this sort of continued embrace that almost got warmer after this happened. And I was really surprised by that. And I do write about the men who did not do that, the men who were like, this is really not okay what's happening. And their clarity in that was so important to me. And I hope that I can do that for other people. Like, I think that that's such a model, and it was one or the other, usually.
Well, you write about the men, but you also write about women who weren't particularly nice to you when you were no longer part of a couple. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and has that changed how you choose friends or view relationships?
Well, I think I happened to be in a very married place when this happened. The community where I'm in Martha's Vineyard, is very married. There are only a few divorced people, so it was definitely like intensified there, that feeling. It's also very traditional. So the way I try and look at the women who were not kind, who were very critical of me writing about this, is that they really bring to it their own experiences, maybe in childhood, maybe in their own marriage, their own fears. So I try and look at it a little bit more compassionately. Now it's sort of interesting to be back in that community, and everyone's been actually very warm and embracing, but the people who I wrote about, there's been a sort of absolute denial that it's them. They're just like, they're not going to go there. But I do think it is, I wanted to write about the feeling of being newly divorced or newly separated or being left by your husband, and how strange it is to go from being a part of something to not being a part of something, and being almost feeling like an alien. Suddenly overnight. And it's a very cold feeling, even if people don't intend to be cold. And it does come down to, like, are you being invited to the same dinners? Or are you only invited to girls' nights? And those things are, this is very privileged stuff, but it can hit you hard.
Of course. And another huge challenge that you write about is parenting throughout this. Mm-hmm. And you clearly made an effort to model kindness in your infamous sandwich scene. Those of you who have read the book know what I'm talking
about.
Mm-hmm. But children are energy leaders. Mm-hmm. So would you do it differently? And talk us through a little bit.
The sandwich, or just in general?
The sandwich, yes, in general.
In general, I think I made a big mistake. A therapist advised that I not tell them until the pandemic became less scary. So I waited a month for the pandemic to become less scary, and of course it did not. And that was a mistake. My older daughter knew because she read a text on my iPad. And my younger daughter did not, and ended up feeling betrayed that we had known and she didn't know. And my older daughter, I thought I was pretending well, but I was not. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I was just a mess. And I end up thinking it's much better to just say very clearly and plainly what's going on. And that is the line that I've tried to walk. Which is to acknowledge their reality without speaking meanly about their father. So when he did not make a bedroom for my youngest at his apartment, that was very painful for her. And the way I handled that was to say, Dad doesn't have pots and pans. He can't make a home for you right now, and I don't know why. He's going through something. But that's about him, that's not about you. And that felt better than saying, this is totally normal, this is absolutely fine. But it's a hard line to walk, and a lot of mothers have to try and walk that line. It's not easy.
The book has touched so many cultural nerves. Really become an anthem for so many women. My 89-year-old mother read it in one sitting, my 23-year-old daughter, and all her friends are talking about it. What has surprised you the most about the phenomenon that your book has become?
It's all surprised me. We had a very, very small print run. I had 3 stops on my book tour. It's not a tour. No one anticipated this at all, and I really didn't either. I was just so thrilled to have written a book and to have it be published and to be in a bookstore somewhere. So all of it has been a huge surprise. I'm really surprised by the number of people this exact thing has happened to around the world. I get many DMs a day. Often women sharing, and sometimes men sharing, that the same thing happened to them, almost using exactly the same language, just with absolutely no warning and then no explanation. So that's really surprised me. I think one thing that has been amazing is that one of the reasons why it was a small book was that I did not get into any of those book clubs, Oprah or Jenna or Reese. And what we heard, some of the feedback we heard was a concern that readers would be unsatisfied by the lack of answer, the lack of explanation. And I think actually that is something that people have identified with the most. Because it happens a lot, and the end of a friendship, the end of a relationship, in all sorts of ways. And I think there is sort of having to make some sort of existential peace within yourself when someone else doesn't give you an answer that people connect with in all sorts of ways. So that's been probably the most surprising thing. The other thing that those book clubs said was that they wanted there to be a happy ending, and there wasn't a happy ending. And my agent and I were like, but this is a happy ending. She's ready. But that there's not a new man, there's not the old man, and I think readers have been okay with that too.
Totally. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously. I mean, the thing. Another gift from the book I felt was it's a real path through conflict. And you talk in the book about moving through it, not around it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just give us a little flavor of that?
Yeah, I think that is one way that COVID made this a lot. It was a blessing in many ways. It was hard for me. My family could not get to me. I could not get to my family. But it allowed me this peace. I did not have to go to meetings. I did not have to go to school pickup. I could just be with this. So I'd go for these. It started with very short walks, but grew to be these very long 8-mile walks. And I would weep as I walked because I didn't see anybody. There was nobody on the streets. So I felt like I literally walked through it and felt every inch of it. And I contrast that with my father dying in 1996 and just having to get back to law school and get back to life and not really having a moment to feel it. And I think that ended up serving me well in getting to the other side of this and being able to write about it was actually feeling it so intensely while it was happening.
And you have this beautiful piece at the end of the book where your friend notes how different you are,
mm-hmm.
how less brittle, how
right.
somehow losing your ex-husband you found yourself.
Yes. Yes, and it sounds trite, but I think it really is true. I think for me, with getting everything stripped away, the things that I counted on, my husband, my marriage, my intact family, my place in my social world, my sense of my future, having that all kind of burned down was what allowed me to find these essential pieces of myself again, writing. But also sort of this more relaxed personality, this looser person who could tolerate a million teenagers, who could just laugh more easily. It brought me back to my true nature. And I think in my marriage, I felt very happy and very satisfied, and I love my husband so much. But I think I was gripping the wheel so tightly to make sure that everything stayed within the lines, which I did for a long time in my life, just in sort of always doing the next great thing. And sometimes when everything falls apart, you can just feel fuck it, I can be something totally different. And that's a very hopeful thing, I think.
Well, the book is Strangers, and it's about your husband becoming a stranger to you overnight. But, I mean, you must be a bit of a stranger to him now. I mean, what's he thinking? Does he know who you are? I mean, do you think he knew you had this in you? Did you know you had this in you?
Well, I think I write about that scene at the end where I run into him at the Brooklyn Bridge, and I do have that sensation that he doesn't know me anymore. And he knew me when I was a high-performing lawyer, and he knows that I'm well-educated and smart. But I think my friend and I joke that I'm going to get a T-shirt that says "underestimated" because I thought that he thought I had it in me to write it or to publish it or that it would be a success.
So I love the Ospreys. I want you
Thank
to,
you.
I want you to talk to us.
Not all people do.
That's what I want to talk to you about. Tell us about that beautiful motif you use in the book.
So I wrote it as a separate piece when I was I'd written the modern love piece, and then I wrote a piece about my father, and then I wrote this one about the Ospreys, because it was unfolding as my marriage was ending. As he left, the Osprey couple came back. I would see the male every day going out to fish for the 3 chicks, just like I have 3 kids. It was hard to miss the metaphor as it was happening. So I wrote about that, and I wrote about it was so reassuring. Nature can be so reassuring when everything else feels unstable. So there was something about watching this unfold, as well as watching spring arrive. I'm sure you felt that here too. That felt like, okay, like things just continue, and it will continue again next year. And I love that. So I had this separate piece, and then at some point when I was writing the book, I thought, well, maybe this could be a framing device. When I knew it was 5 parts, which was actually my editor's idea to put it in 5 parts, I thought, okay, maybe I can break this up. But in the first draft, those introductory parts were very long. I went really into the Ospreys, more than you ever would have wanted to know. I named each part after the Ospreys, like, and finally my editor was like, we gotta pull back from this. We gotta like take some of this out. So it got cut back, but they're still there. They came back this year. I think there are 2 chicks this year, and it's always a very joyful moment for me.
I am going to let everyone ask questions, but I do want to ask you a couple things about your future. We know you have a movie deal in the works. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that. And I mean, have you signed for another book yet?
I have not signed for another book yet. I feel that would just fill me with so much fear that I'm going to try and write another book first before I try and sell it, and moving to fiction, and I'm not going to write another memoir. And I'm finding fiction very, very hard. So who knows what will happen, but I'm just trying to just enjoy the process and not think about publishing anything again. But yes, my agent connected me with film agents before the book came out in hopes that maybe something would happen, but with no expectation. And then as the book picked up steam, we started getting inquiries. What's interesting about Hollywood is that there was a verbal agreement, a verbal deal with Netflix, but nothing has been signed. And I'm a lawyer, so I don't really understand how that becomes a documented deal. But there is agreement, there are contracts in the works, and hopefully it'll happen. But things, I hope it's made. I'm adopting the philosophy that this is a separate creative endeavor. I did not want to write it. And there's certain things I wouldn't want them to change. There's certain things that would actually be very helpful if they changed, to make it more fictional and not about my family. But we'll see if it gets made. It can get derailed for all sorts of reasons.
And hopefully they'll keep the Ospreys.
I hope so. I hope so. The problem is they're not particularly beautiful birds up close, which is why my cover is, not actual realistic ospreys. But we'll see. I hope they don't make them a different kind of bird.
And your children, how are they taking all your?
There've been so many stages to it, like getting picked for Modern Love coming out, then signing a book contract. So they've come along the whole way with me. They're kind of surprised if I get recognized. I think they're really proud of me, but it's complicated for them. This is a big thing, and I try and be really conscious of that every day.